Welcome, everybody, to the Finance Road Trip Podcast Part 2, the Black Wall Street Tour, also known as the Digital Financial Revolution Tour, where I take you on my journey to 22 cities with cryptocurrency exchange owner Najah Roberts with the goal to close the wealth gap through group economics and financial literacy and a focus on Bitcoin, which we believe to be the evolution of money. Najah Roberts and Hill Harper partnered to create the Black Wall Street Wallet, where you can buy, sell, and send your Bitcoin to your cold wallet. Make sure to follow me on all major platforms at CJ the Smart Guy and check out thedfrtour.com for more information on 2022 tour. Thank you. And so we had just left Alabama where it was pouring down rain. We got to Atlanta, Georgia, and the weather was a whole lot better. Atlanta is beautiful. All of Georgia. I mean, I'm telling you, I've mentioned it many times in this podcast. I'll keep saying it. Make sure you guys take road trips around the country because this country is absolutely gorgeous. So we pull up in Atlanta. It's May 7th, and our event is at the Black House. The Black House is owned by Jay, Mr. Real Estate Morrison. He's the one who created the Tulsa Real Estate Fund back in June 1st of 2018. That's essentially the first African-American owned, regulated, A-plus crowdsourced equity real estate fund where over $6 million was raised within the first week and over 9,000 investors became a part of that trust. And so many of those investors were unaccredited and they were first-time real estate investors. What that really means is, when we look at the history of this country, historically, black people have been left out of the real estate market. First, it was that we weren't allowed to own land, during slavery days. And then when we were able to own land, you had lots of different crazy things such as eminent domain, where the government says, hey, we have to seize your land and we'll possibly give you equal compensation for it. Or you have different situations like in Central Park, New York, where they just, build on top of your city and they say, hey, we're going to put a park here. There's other places around the country where they've said, hey, we're just going to put a pool. And then you've got places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, where, jealous people were just like, hey, you know what? We're going to destroy all of this city, one of the most successful cities ever in this country. And it was predominantly African-American. We had our own airplanes, our own banks. And, they destroyed it. First, you had some of the soldiers who had come back that were jealous, destroying it. Then you had the KKK coming and destroying it. And then you actually had bombs by the U.S. government coming to, destroy that city. And so that happened around the entire country. That happened in 1921. And so Jay Morrison, who understands the history of Tulsa, where it's like first we couldn't get the land, then when we do, you try to destroy what we got. And, through accredited investors and different things like that, which are barriers to entry to enter the real estate market, what he said was, hey, I'm going to create this fund and I'm going to have a whole bunch of us be able to chip in. And you guys are going to be able to create a residual income for yourself. And we're going to help rebuild Tulsa, Oklahoma through real estate. And so I know when I was younger, I used to watch Jay Morrison talk about real estate. He would be on a whiteboard and just, be writing things down. So to come full circle, to be able to see him in real life and not just come to him as a fan, but also come to him as, hey, I'm a CPA and I'm working with Najah Roberts. That was really cool. So big shout outs to Jay Morrison. I also think that by him breaking down some of these barriers for real estate investing, I think it's also good to mention that the tokenization of real estate is probably on the way. So when we mention these barriers to entry, either you have to have a certain amount of money, you have to have a certain amount of credit, you have to have a certain experience sometimes. And I think with the tokenization of the real estate, meaning every single piece of real estate will be tokenized, meaning anybody in the world can now buy a piece of land. Imagine a skyscraper worth $20 billion being tokenized. That $20 million building might turn into 50 million because more and more people want to buy into it. I think that that's going to be happening around the entire country, where public places such as like parks, anything that's government run, I think eventually that's going to be tokenized on the blockchain, as well as big real estate. I think that possibly like apartment buildings, project buildings, as well as like commercial buildings that rent out office space to businesses. I think a lot of that's going to be tokenized on the blockchain. I know in Manhattan, New York, they've already started doing some things like that. So you should do some of your research to check out the tokenization of real estate. And so, also when I was there at the Black House, I got to meet up with a guy named Jakumi Randolph. He is a fellow BBB, Black Bitcoin Billionaire member. He's a cryptocurrency trader. And so I personally don't do a lot of cryptocurrency trading. I typically buy, hold, never sell. But if you're one of the people who want to trade, he's somebody that you want to look out, figure out some things. You might want to research him real quick. And so that was May 7th. It went real well. I went inside the Black House, and you've got, portraits, pictures of lots of different important Black figures in this country. And it kind of gave me the feel of like how Vector 90 is in LA. I used to work out at Vector 90, which was Nipsey Hussle's co-op spot off Gage Street. And so here I am in Atlanta working with Jay Morrison at the Black House. So a lot of this is kind of surreal. It's kind of cool just watching myself go from watching him on a whiteboard to seeing his whole Black House, and then me going from a little student now to a CPA. It's great seeing us all lift and climb as we go. Hustle and motivate is the motto. That was Nipsey's motto. And in Vector 90, I would do that. And so it's cool seeing somebody else do it at the Black House. And so that was the first day. The second day, we went to the gathering spot in Atlanta. And here I had a couple people actually show up that I knew in real life. Chelsea Hoover came. I've known her since college. Shout outs to TSU. She's also a co-worker over at BNSF. And so she came out to support me. She's been one of my biggest supporters since I left the railroad to start my entrepreneurship journey. So big shout outs to Chelsea. Nima Cat also came over. So Nima Cat, I actually saw her my first finance road trip. So we did a skit basically where we talked about identity politics and how, me being an accountant, people want to box me in as, oh, you must just be a numbers guy punching things in. And her being a doctor, a doctor of medicine, people want to box her in as just a doctor. And so what she said in her life is that she's actually a healer, whether she's going to heal through medicine or she's going to heal through comedy. And so she took on being a comedian. So you've got somebody who's worked two different professions, completely opposite, and is successful in both of them. And so I did that skit because I'm an accountant and I plan on making salsa dancing my second line of income or whatnot, in the sense where I have two different ideologies about me. And, I think that's going to go real well. It kind of got delayed due to COVID. I was planning on doing a whole bunch of salsa dancing around the country, but that slowed down. However, in the future, you're going to see that. So big shout outs to Nima Cat. I know she drove pretty far to come check that out. You guys should check her out also. She's really big on comedy. I know she's got pictures with Dave Chappelle, and she's got her own tour going on in New York. So big shout outs to Nima. Also, it reminds me like how Isaiah and Lamar, they were on the 85 South show, and they utilized comedians in order to infuse our Bitcoin narrative to try to make sure that, we're reaching the masses. And so recently I was actually on a podcast with the Poor Horsemen down here in Houston, Texas. Shout outs to the Poor Horsemen. And so, just teaching people not just through podcasts or through videos or through social media, but also through comedy, I think is really important. But yeah, back to the tour. The first time I went to Atlanta on my first road trip, I also checked out the Tyler Perry Studios. It's actually really gorgeous. It's huge. I wasn't able to go inside, but it was really nice looking on the outside, driving through, as well as I visited some of the HBCUs. I had no idea that Spelman, Morehouse, and Clark Atlanta were so close, and it's all not too far from Tyler Perry Studios. So Atlanta's a great place. I plan on going back there again. I love seeing a whole bunch of Black people doing well, striving to do well. And I know we were supposed to meet with Mayor Keisha Bottoms, but while we were on tour, she resigned. I don't know what happened. I don't know the politics. I'm not going to get into any of that because I just don't know. But yeah, so CJ the Smart Guy, that's Atlanta. Deuce.